Worldview Radio and WVW TV is made possible because of listeners like you. Thank you so much for your tax-deductible contribution that you can make at wvwfoundation.com. That's wvwfoundation.com, or by calling 901-825-0652. That's 901-825-0652. You can also send your tax-deductible contribution via check to WVW Foundation, P.O. Box 1690, Collierville, Tennessee 38027. That's again, WVW Foundation, P.O. Box 1690, Collierville, Tennessee 38027. Thank you for helping make possible Worldview Radio and WVW TV broadcasts.
Faith, spiritual values, moral issues, government, economy, education, work, responsibility. What we think about these depends on our worldview. Now, VCY America presents Worldview Weekend Radio with Brannon Howse.
Welcome. Glad you're with us. We're going to be joined by Tom Sweeney and Lorraine Decker here from LaCrosse as we continue to monitor the very disturbing city ordinance, which makes it a local law in LaCrosse related to reparative therapy, even criminalizing, according to the way the ordinance is written, any person, and any person would be a parent, that counsels any child would be your own. So any person, including a parent, any child, including your own, as that's the way the ordinance is written, could be prosecuted, brought before a judge, if they counsel their child against the transitioning, the whole LGBTQ trans movement. As we read the ordinance on the air here several weeks ago, we noticed that they did not remove counseling kids in encouragement of such transition. So there's new developments in that. We told you we would follow it, and indeed there are new developments. And then, ironically, as so is much the case, our stories sometimes fit together. My friend Dr. John Witcher was with us last week in Springfield, Missouri for the Moment of Truth Summit. And if you remember the story of Dr. John Witcher, an ER doctor from down in the Jackson, Mississippi area, who's an ER doctor of many, many, many years, was let go by the hospital because he dared to prescribe ivermectin to patients to try to save their life. He came to our studio 2 or 3 times here in the Mid-South, and then joined us many times by Skype. He was with us in person at the Moment of Truth Summit last week. I did an interview with him that we'll play at some point. But he just alerted me that the American Pediatrics Association is, I guess, reversing course on transitioning young people from one gender to another, so-called transitioning. So how ironic that he calls me, has that story, and yet we also have the story out of LaCrosse. So often is the case, many of the stories do fit together. Joining me now is Lorraine Decker and Tom Sweeney. Tom, remember, is a retired United States Reserve officer, and Lorraine is also a former city council member. I think Tom was also on the city council of LaCrosse. Guys, welcome back to the broadcast. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Welcome. Hi.
Do I have that right? Both of you used to be on the city council there in LaCrosse?
Yes.
Yes. Matter of fact, we sat right next to each other.
Exactly. We shared the same glasses.
I've done that before. Yeah. Well, you obviously share the same worldview as well when it comes to this issue, and we sure appreciate that. I've got here, Logan, if you want to show it on the screen, Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty. They have a letter, August 22nd, 2022, that's rather lengthy. Who would like to describe what's in this letter? Which one of you?
Tom can.
Go ahead, Tom.
Well, it's when another coalition member sent this to me and I read it, I just simply replied back, boom. BOOM with an exclamation point. There is so much in that letter that addresses anything and everything that violates the Constitution, either on constitutional matters or it's invalid on its premises. That's in a nutshell, I guess.
Well, the ordinance, they wanted to say the exact same thing we were saying, which is any person. That's, of course, it could be a pastor, it could be a parent, a grandparent. And then the ordinance is enforced, says the Will Institute. The ordinance is enforced by the chief of police and, quote, such other city officers or city employees who are assigned enforcement responsibilities for this chapter, end quote. And they write, at the May 31st, 2022 meeting of the Judiciary and Administration Committee regarding the ordinance, the city's assistant chief of police confirmed that if there were complaints about violations of the ordinance, the city's police department would investigate the violation and, if appropriate, take enforcement action. I'm assuming enforcement action could mean ticketing someone, a summons to show in court. I don't know if this, at what point this tips the scale and becomes something you can be arrested for. You guys will have to comment, but certainly I guess they could give them a summons to show up in court but face the judge if a parent's consulting a child against transition, correct?
Seems to me. One of our coalition members called the municipal judge and got kind of a feedback on what the penalty would be. And apparently, I think they said $250 plus court costs, and I think court costs are like $100, and that would be for each offense.
Wow, Lorraine, this story. Now here we are on 60 Christian stations of the VCY America Radio Network and Lindell TV, and then all the other outlets that pick it up later. We're covering Wisconsin. We're being heard right now in LaCrosse. But to those who are not in Wisconsin, they should care because this is a national trend. I think there are 13 other cities in Wisconsin doing this. So that's about 14 municipalities doing this in your state. But this is a national trend. I talked to someone the other day that this kind of legislation has been passed statewide in California. So we're just using LaCrosse, Lorraine, as an example of what's happening across the nation to undermine the pulpit and the parents, correct?
Exactly.
So what kind of response have you received when you brought these concerns to the city council? And now you have these lawyers writing this lengthy report that's, this is a 10-page letter. What kind of response has the city? I mean, these lawyers writing a 10-page letter, I mean, they got better things to do with their time than write 10 pages unless it's really important. So clearly a 10-page letter from a lawyer should catch their attention. Has it?
Well, I can let you know that we received the amended ordinance that's going to be presented next week to the council, starting with the Judiciary and Administration Committee, the J&A Committee, next Tuesday. And they've made some changes to it, but it's still unconstitutional, and I can tell you why.
Yeah, because I'm looking, if we want to show this legal memorandum to Common Council Mayor Mitch Reynolds, CC Stephen F. Matty, City Attorney, and Deputy City Attorney is on here, Krista. Then we have Ellen R. Atterbury, Associate City Attorney. And it's regarding conversion therapy, legal memorandum, legal department. After reviewing the various authorities, after reviewing the various authority on the subject matter of conversion therapy throughout the United States and assuming the City Council wishes to enact its own legislation on the topic, it is the recommendation of the legal department that the City Council adopt the attached proposed second amendment. Now, I'm scrolling down the page. I just have page 1 of 1. Do you have the amendment, or did you send it to me?
Yeah.
Okay, let me see if I can find it, because I'd like to read it to the audience. I'm sure they'd all like to hear it, too. Here we go. I think I just found it. All right, this is dated August 30th, 2022. Proposed amendment for J&A August 30th, so that's coming up. Now, it's rather lengthy. I mean, this is like a page and a half or page and 3/4. I guess maybe for the sake of ease, just can you tell me what they've changed? Because it's a lot here.
Sure. What they basically did is they kind of took out, this ordinance does not affect everyone. So in other words, now parents and...
Oh, wait a minute. Look at there. This will make it easy. Look, they did. You can see on the screen here, persons means any, so they've crossed person out, and then looks like they've added. Is the double line whatever they've added?
Correct.
Okay, so they took out person means any natural person, individual, corporation, corporation, unincorporated association, proprietorship, firm, partnership, joint venture, joint stock association, or other entity or business organization. They're striking that. They're adding, quote, medical or mental health professional means any individual who is licensed by a local, state, or federal or other regulatory body to engage in a profession related to physical or mental health, including any students, interns, trainees, apprentices, or assistants who provide medical or mental health services under the auspices, guidance, or supervision of a licensed medical or mental health professional, end quote. So that's what they're adding for right now. So do you believe the way, and we're not for this revised amendment, but is there anything positive? In other words, has it been rewritten, Lorraine, so that a parent wouldn't be prosecuted, a pastor wouldn't be prosecuted or ticketed or fined or dragged before a judge? How do you read it now? Is it getting better? Is it starting to limit the targets?
Well, as far as I'm concerned, we're still dealing with the whole big umbrella of unconstitutionality.
Yes.
So I'm not going to go so far as to say there's anything better from my perspective.
What about you, Tom?
Well, I'm going to refer to a section that was in the letter that came from the Wisconsin Institute of Law and Liberty, Will, that you've already mentioned.
Yes.
And by the way, it wasn't just one lawyer, it was a team of lawyers that put that thing together. But anyway, in 2018, the Supreme Court observed that it had never recognized professional speech as a separate category of speech. Free speech is free speech, no matter who says it, whether you're getting paid or not, and why, and what you're saying, and how you're saying it, and what the purpose of your speech is for.
And again, I'm not trying to make this Second Amendment be a positive thing, but if the public pressure has caused this thing to be whittled down and we're making progress, I would like to note the progress. So do you think this Second Amendment is taking parents and pastors off the target list? Is it now directed toward so-called professionals? In other words, have we moved away the parent from being prosecuted? Have we potentially moved away the pastor from being prosecuted? And now is it a matter of the professional that the parent would take them to becomes the target?
Correct.
Okay, so we're making progress. The people are making progress.
Well, we'll see what happens.
Lorraine is not so sure we're making progress, but what I'm trying to do is get to the bottom line to see if the public pressure has taken the target off the parent and off the pastor.
Well, what about if the pastor is a parent or the professional is a parent?
Yeah, see, now you're opening a very good, these are the kind of questions we need answered, exactly. So again, I'm not praising the new revised version, but what I'm trying to get to is, has the pressure from the public caused them to start to remove targets? And if they're starting to remove targets, then we can come back around and say, A, you see what happens when the people get involved. B, if you're removing targets, then you clearly recognize the legality and unconstitutional nature of what you're doing.
Right.
Sure.
Once we get them to start removing targets, they're admitting this is wrong to start with.
Correct. One thing that I mentioned when the ordinance first came out, there was going to be an attempt. I said, they're going to try to strengthen this ordinance by weakening it.
Oh, you did say that.
Yeah. Okay, strengthen it against being unconstitutional by weakening it. So they take things out that make it not so broad. But the thing is, you like the Supreme Court said, and I'll read it again. In 2018, the Supreme Court observed that it has never recognized professional speech as a separate category of speech and declined to treat professional speech as a unique category that is exempt from ordinary First Amendment principles.
Wow, hold right there. We'll be back with Lorraine and Tom from LaCrosse, Wisconsin, a story that has national implications for all of us. We'll be right back.
The 19th annual Ozarks Worldview Weekend. Tickets are now available, and just like last year, it will sell out this year as well. We only have seating for 1,000 people. Filled up last year in 2021, and 2022 is sure to do the same. Hello, I'm Brannon Howse. Join us for the 19th annual Ozarks Worldview Weekend on beautiful Lake of the Ozarks. The resort is right on the water. It's all inclusive. You come there and you stay, and your meals are there, and you register for our conference. And we have a great lineup this year. Keynote speakers in person will include Dr. Peter McCullough, internist and cardiologist, an expert on pandemics and bioweapons. We'll have with us CEO of MyPillow, Mike Lindell, Roger Stone, Patrick Wood, expert on technocracy and globalism, Annie Cyrus, born in Iran and an expert on the Middle East, Dr. Lee Merritt, former military surgeon and expert on bioweapons, Dr. Andy Woods, pastor, lawyer, and also expert on Bible prophecy, Terry Turchi, former assistant deputy director of the counterterrorism division of the FBI, author and journalist, an expert on illegal immigration and the border crisis, Leo Holman, Karen Kingston, she is a bioweapons analyst. This is the incredible lineup. There's also the option of the Thursday night banquet concert, and then also the luncheon on Saturday, the WVW Foundation luncheon on Saturday. Now, these things on Thursday night and the luncheon on Saturday are optional. You don't have to attend those if you don't want to, but you can, and you can get your tickets along with your general seating or your priority seating tickets for the conference itself at wvwtvstore.com. All the details are there, wvwtvstore.com. Be sure to call the resort, use that promo code WRLD, or just say Worldview Weekend, or the code WRLD, and you will get the weekend rate when you book your room reservations at the Tantera Margaritaville Resort, right there on beautiful Lake of the Ozarks, 1,150 miles of shoreline, rolling hills of the Ozarks. It's gorgeous. So don't delay. It will sell out. wvwtvstore.com, wvwtvstore.com. If you prefer to order your tickets over the phone, you can call Melissa and or text her at 901-825-0652, 901-825-0652, 901-825-0652 if you prefer to order your tickets over the phone. Otherwise, wvwtvstore.com, wvwtvstore.com, the 19th annual Ozarks Worldview Weekend.
All right, welcome back. Glad you're with us. Worldview Radio, Brannon Howse here, worldviewradio.com on the VCY America Radio Network. By the way, I was talking to one of the guys at TV 30 last night, and I asked him, how is the Worldview Report being received? And this is TV 30 in Milwaukee. He said that he is hearing from folks that they have stopped watching. A lot of them have stopped watching the other 10 p.m. newscast to watch the Worldview Report. And so, again, if you're in the Milwaukee area, if you're like me and you don't watch the local news because it's slanted, it's, you know the old saying, if it bleeds, it leads. I mean, I get tired of watching it. It's depressing. I don't want to. I'm sorry these things are happening. I'm against the violence, and the violence, by the way, is only increasing, sadly. Reading an article today about carjackings and how common carjackings are becoming now in major cities, particularly Louisiana, where they've gone from, I think, needing something like 2,000 cops down to 500, if I remember the article correctly. But it was a massive, massive decline in cops. This is what happens when you mistreat your police. So what happens when you don't pay them right. So what happens when you try to prosecute them for doing their job. I mean, who's going to want to take this risk anymore? That's exactly the goal, to create chaos. And then, of course, this will allow them to federalize the police, which is also their ultimate goal. But I have a hard time watching the local news because it's just one violent story after another, right? So if you are looking to tune into some news that is an alternative to your 10 p.m. news in Milwaukee, TV 30 every night at 10 p.m., and I understand it is really growing. But not only is it growing in Milwaukee, that outlet is that broadcast has been picked up by now 6 different national outlets. The Worldview Report takes a team of 15 man hours a day. A team of 7, about 15 man hours a day to put that together. So you can imagine the thousands of dollars we're spending a month to produce that one daily 30-minute show. But that's what we do, and apparently it is now become very popular, which is why 6 networks have picked it up. So don't forget, you can watch it at 10 p.m. Central Time in Milwaukee on TV 30. The rest of you can watch it at frankspeech.com or WVWTV.com, WVWTV.com. My guest now, before I go to Dr. John Witcher on the American Pediatric Association, doing what he says is 100% reversal on transition surgery for children, which is a big deal. How did that happen? 2 good news stories. Are you tired of bad news? We got some good news stories today. We don't want to go too overboard on the good news here in LaCrosse because it's still bad. But apparently enough public pressure has been brought to bear, and attorneys were reminding the city of LaCrosse about the litigation they will be tangling themselves up in if they don't do something and do something fast. So apparently they are now reshaping this so-called reparative therapy ordinance. Lorraine Decker and Tom Sweeney, both former city council members in LaCrosse, are leading the way with others in their community to stop this altogether. It sounds as though now the target of pastor or parent has maybe been taken off the platform, but not completely because, again, as Lorraine said, what if you are a registered professional or a pastor? Now, does that then still come to bear on you as a /parent? Go back to the article by the organization out of Wisconsin. If a pastor in a sermon directs his congregation to meditate on the well-known line of Genesis, God created man in his own image, male and female, he created them, has he engaged in a so-called effort to so-called change gender expressions with respect to a minor in his church who rejects the gender binary? Very good question. They go on from there. If they go on to talk about the concern related to homosexual behavior, does that become a problem? Could they become a target? So supposedly pastors have been removed, parents have been removed as being as much of a threat, but there would be nothing that would allow them, there would be nothing that would stop them, Tom, would it, from going with this milder version, if you will, and then strengthening it back to making parents and pastors specific targets later on?
Yeah, the people can stop it. That's what we're doing. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, it sure did. Yeah. Let's go back to the ordinance and see what else they've added here. Okay. Conversion therapy prohibited. It is unlawful for any, and they've added, medical or mental health professional. They've crossed the word person to practice. They've crossed out the word person and practice. They've added the words medical or mental health professional to engage in conversion therapy with anyone under 18 years of age. Now, I don't, that means, again, medical or mental health professional. So could that mean, obviously, your medical doctor, mental health professional? Could they redefine words to have your pastor be a mental health professional? Could that happen, Lorraine?
Well, I'm a chaplain, and that's a real concern of mine,
Tom?
Well, when it goes to the council, they can change anything they want by the majority simple vote, right? So if they debate this and they want to make some changes to it, they can. My guess is what's going to happen is there's enough pushback on this thing that they're just going to simply drop it here in LaCrosse. I mean, that's the hope and the prayer anyway.
Well, that's the hope and prayer. Then they've added referral to state. Allegations that a medical or mental health professional is in violation of this section shall be submitted in writing. The city shall refer the written allegations to the State of Wisconsin Department of Safety and Professional Services, which regulates therapy services and professional counseling, for investigation and other actions it deems appropriate. So again, if you are a professional counselor, and I have friends of mine that are Christians and that are psychiatrists, they are, what's the other word? Psychiatrist or a
psychologist?
Psychologist or a psychiatrist, yes. So if they are in their practice, they could be prosecuted. Correct, Lorraine?
That's the way it reads to me.
And they've just beefed that up even stronger. So in some respects, this is even becoming stronger on certain professions.
I think so.
Okay.
Yes.
So when is the next hearing? August 30th? Is that it?
Yes.
So can the public join in the meeting? Can they show up and be in the audience at their city council there in LaCrosse?
Yes. This is the chance for public input is at the J&A committee meeting. What's kind of goofy about the way the council is set up now, they do their subcommittees, and they have two of them. Back when Lorraine and I were on, there was three, and the week before the council, you'd have your public hearings, and then we came together as a full council on the Tuesday before the Thursday full council meeting. We come together as what's called committee of the whole. So everybody on the council got to hear public hearings from everybody that had something to say. They've done away with that now here in LaCrosse. They have half the council on one subcommittee, the other half's on another subcommittee, and they never get together to hear the public all at once. Unless at the council meeting, they vote to open it up to public hearings. And I asked the council member, how many times has that happened since you've been on the council? He said he thinks maybe only once. And I'm going, you guys aren't even hearing all the people's public, their input. Half of you are, but you're not all hearing at the same time. When this came before the council last month or back in June, there was one motion by a council member. This is at the full council meeting now, to open it up to public hearing. It didn't even get a second.
Lorraine, you want to comment?
Well, that's ridiculous. I remember at least I remember always somebody seconding the motion to let the public have a hearing,
So will on August 30th, the public will be able to make public comments, is what you guys are saying, correct?
Yes.
How many people can fit into the city council chambers?
Probably a good 100 or more, but there's standing room, along the sides and in the back, and then the lobby is fairly large also.
Will it be full? Will it be full?
There's a potential. Yes, I would think so.
Okay. So can you guys make sure you capture footage, or if you have the public footage and know where it's going to be, because we'd love to monitor and pull clips from this meeting and the public comments and broadcast them.
Okay.
Also, it takes place August 30th. What time for all those listening in LaCrosse?
6 p.m. in the council chambers, City Hall.
What do folks need to do if they want to make a public comment? How long do they have to make their public comment, and do they have to fill out a piece of paper and submit it by a certain time on that day or before?
Right. When you show up to the meeting before 6 o'clock, you can fill out a form, and you can mark a box that says I am in favor of this legislation, or I oppose this legislation, and you can say I wish to speak or I wish to not speak, and either one of those. So I oppose this and I don't want to speak. I oppose this. I want to speak. I am in favor of it. I don't want to speak. I'm in favor of it. I do want to speak. So there's 4 choices.
And so the meeting starts again at what time?
6 p.m. And then typically you get 3 minutes per speaker, 15 minutes per side. So if we have 30 speakers, they're going to have to extend the time or something. We'll have to see what happens.
So do you have to have your paper in before 6 p.m.?
When you show up for the 6 o'clock start, you want to get there early enough to fill out the sheet of paper, and so it gets turned in. Yes.
So you want to get your paper turned in before 6 p.m.
Right.
Okay. All right. We're going to keep this, keep monitoring this. We're going to try to find the footage. If one of you could send me a link, if your town carries it, and we'll grab it and record it, and we'll pull snippets and we'll follow back up. Let me ask you in conclusion, how many pastors and churches are now getting involved? Has it increased? Yes or no?
I don't know that it's increased, because I know that one of our coalition members contacts one pastor who then sends out the information from our coalition to 64 churches in this area. So that was a lot to begin with.
Lorraine, do you have any idea if it's increased since this started? Because I know at one point you guys were a little disappointed in the lack of representation of LaCrosse pastors.
Well, I haven't seen any more show up, but whether they're supporting us behind the scenes, I hope. But I don't know.
Isn't it time that the pastors not support behind the scenes, but come out of the tall grass and publicly show up?
Yes.
Maybe a pastor or two could show up and say, "Thus saith the Lord," and read from the Bible. That would be a novel thing to see. I mean, I don't understand.
And then when they get done with that, I can get up and say, "Thus says the Constitution."
Thank you. Which really go well together, since we are blessed to live in a nation where we have a constitutional republic, which William Blackstone, when asked what that was, said, "What the divine has ruled on, we don't rule against." So the Bible and the constitutional republic go hand in hand. The Bible is the foundation for our republic, according to the leading scholar for the founding fathers, William Blackstone.
Right.
Amen.
All right, you guys are wonderful. Have you guys been receiving harassment for what you're doing?
Well, I take that back. There were 70 people that wrote into the city clerk's office when this first came out in June in opposition to this ordinance being adopted. What happened was the certain segment of our society, and you can imagine who it was, took those 70 names and put them on a red sheet of paper.
Oh boy.
And said, "Parents beware." And they put all 70 names on this red, bullet, see this warning sign with some pretty untruthful and damaging and damning comments, claiming people were murderers and rapists and all this kind of stuff. And we're going, whoa, wait, time out, back up. So we're even looking into doing some possible litigation against that kind of harassment, so that's another avenue that we might be looking at here too.
Well, keep us posted. We'll pray for your safety. We appreciate your leadership. Lorraine Decker and Tom Sweeney checking in. We'll be following this. We'll be back with Dr. John Witcher right for this.
Hello, I'm Brannon Howse, and we have just received a new shipment of freeze-dried food, and we have a new website where you can purchase it. It's wvwtvstore.com. That's the new website, wvwtvstore.com. Again, WVW as in Worldview Weekend, wvwtvstore.com. It has a 25-year shelf life. All the details are there. 2,000 calories a day. Great description of exactly each entree, what you're getting. We have the 2-week plan, we have the 4-week plan, we have the 3-month plan, 6-month plan, and many of you have asked for a plan that's 1 year, a 1-year food supply. That's what I have. And many of you have asked for that. We added it. It's all available now at wvwtvstore.com. Now, I do want to tell you, on some of it, we're eating some of the cost of the shipping. In other words, we're not charging you for some of these plans what the shipping actually cost us. We're going to go ahead and eat the cost of some of the shipping. And if you want to know why shipping is expensive, well, for like the 1-year plan, that's a lot of buckets. That's a lot of weight. So again, you need to know that we're not charging you what the full price of the shipping is, because again, we're trying to be reasonable here. Look, we want to offer you this service. We appreciate your buying it from us. It's a big part of our general operating budget. We know you can buy it somewhere else, but when you buy it from us, you're also helping to support WVW Broadcast Network. Now again, as we get into the fall, there's talk of pandemics and rolling blackouts and World War III and all the things that are going on in this world. The demand for freeze-dried food is going back up. We've actually had times and periods where the company says to us, we can't provide you with anything for right now. You're going to have to wait a few weeks. In some cases, they've even said a few months. We had to flip to another company because the company we were originally with stopped making it available to us as a distributor for months. So we have a great company we're working with. We appreciate them. We're getting shipments. But folks, when the demand kicks in, we can't guarantee you we can get it. If we can't get it, we can't offer it to you. So I would urge you to order while we can get it to you. wvwtvstore.com, wvwtvstore.com. All the details are there. If you prefer to order over the phone, you can call 901-825-0652. That's 901-825-0652. You can also text Melissa at that number and give her your name and your number and say, hey, call me when you can. She's swamped, folks, so be patient with her. She's absolutely swamped. But you can text her at 901-825-0652 or call her. Better to text her if you can, and then she'll call you as soon as she's able to. 901-825-0652. Otherwise, place your order at wvwtvstore.com, wvwtvstore.com, while we have it and while we can ship it to you. Thank you.
That'd be great. Thanks.
All right, welcome back. Glad you guys are with us. Worldview Radio, our website, worldviewradio.com, worldviewradio.com. Speaking of religious persecution and that of conservatives and those with a Christian worldview, Fox News is reporting August 24th is when this was published, which is today. Unvaxxed Navy sailors face deplorable living conditions while religious exemptions pinned. They charge the Navy's also not letting them separate from service, leaving them stuck in gruesome limbo. So again, persecution for anyone that dares to stand up, assert their constitutional rights, assert common sense, their conscience, as well as protect their life from harm. I saw some guy, Dan Bongino, I think it was, said that taking the shot was the biggest mistake of his life. Yeah, I would say that probably is the case. One of them. One would be one of the biggest mistakes you could make. As the cancer rate explodes and people die, even people I know that have died or are dying of cancer that took the shot. And people that have had cancer and it went into remission and they got the shot, it came exploding back with a vengeance. But this is what we tried warning about in early 2020 with Dr. Judy Mikovits. We were roundly criticized by many, even some within the Christian community, the conservative community, the national security arena. We received emails. Don't interview her. She's a quack. She's crazy. She warned about this in her books before 2020. We interviewed her starting in early 2020. And she said this would be one of the results. Now the results are in. One study shows 10,000% spike in cancer. Over 40% of mothers losing their children who had the shot while pregnant. And then, of course, we transition now, pardon the pun, to the topic of transitioning. The American Pediatric Association apparently has done a reverse course, which would be great and more good news today. Joining me now is Dr. John Witcher. He is a ER doctor by training, a medical doctor. His profession included being an ER doctor until he dared to prescribe ivermectin to try to save his patients. He has been in our studio many times and was with us in Springfield, Missouri the other night. He joins me now. Dr. Witcher, thanks for being with us via phone today.
Thank you, Brannon. Thank you. Good to be with you. Yeah, I'm Dr. John Witcher. I'm a country doctor from Mississippi. I've been practicing for over 25 years in Mississippi. I've seen tens and tens of thousands of patients throughout Mississippi. I've been working at about 12 or more different locations in rural Mississippi at these small hospitals. I worked on the Choctaw Indian tribe in the hospital setting there for several years to pay back my student loans. I've been in rural medical clinics, and I've been in the ER. And, I was trained by older doctors that had been out there, and they practice as general practitioners. That's really what I am, a general practitioner. I'm a dying breed. I'm probably the last of the general practitioners.
What does that mean? What does that mean, Dr. John, to be one of the last general practitioners?
A general practitioner, back in the day when I started out 25 years ago, many of these rural doctors were still delivering babies. They were doing surgeries, and all that stopped, okay? And it stopped for several reasons. Of course, liability was one of them, and just getting the availability of staff in these centers. But more importantly, it was a push. It was a push by the American Medical Association to centralize medicine, okay? They want all the procedures done in a urban setting, in a big tertiary teaching hospital. Okay, that's what they want. So these days what they do is they put nurse practitioners or mid-level providers out in the countryside that aren't trained to take care of ER patients or deliver babies or do any surgeries, and then they just refer all their patients to the city, to the big hospital, so they can pretty much push their liberal lunatic agenda on these patients. And we see that with the American Academy of Pediatrics. Right now, they're fighting. It hasn't been decided, but there's a big fight. They had their annual meeting, and at least 5 prominent pediatricians in their group stood up and said, we want to stop this whole transgender therapy of getting medications, hormone therapy that's not reversible to these children. Because many of these children, when they grow up, you can go on Reddit, for example, social media site. There's 37,000 people in that one site alone, and many of them are regretting that they went through the process of receiving these medications, and some of them surgery. But now it's irreversible. They're young adults, older teenagers, and their parents and these doctors, pediatricians, pushed this agenda on them, and they didn't know their identity as a kid. It was peer pressure that pushed them into that. But now what? What do you do with them now? And that's the problem. And so these brave pediatricians stood up and tried. They just tried to get their word in to say, because in Britain, they're slowing down that process. They're saying, no, let's don't give these little kids medicines and surgeries to convert their sex. Let's let them grow up, give them some counseling, let them talk about it, but let's don't push this terrible agenda on these children that don't know any better. And so Britain is backing off of that. In America, many pediatricians want to back down and say, let's don't do this. But they didn't even make it. Their resolution didn't even make it in for a vote. Okay, but it did push the president of the American Academy of Pediatrics. It did push her to come out and say, well, many times we don't. Most of these people, these kids, are not given these medicines and surgeries right off the bat. Okay, well, that's a whole different turn from 2018 when they did put out their propaganda to say that, oh, yeah, we have to get to these children early and they have to get on these medications and have surgeries to convert their sex. And so it's a small win, but we're in revival. I'm one of those, and there's many doctors out throughout America that still believe in God, that still believe humans are sacred. We're created in the image of God, and life is sacred. And there's many of us, okay? But we're silenced because most of these, the American Medical Association, they're run by a bunch of leftist lunatics, okay? They want to be politically correct, but more than that, they believe that we're all animals, that we evolved from pond slime, okay, over billions of years, and we're just another animal. It's a very racist theory. The whole theory of evolution teaches that one race is more evolved than the others, but we don't believe that. I believe that all humans, whether you're black, white, yellow, purple, whatever color, we're all created in the image of God, okay? And he knows what your sex was. When he helped form you in the womb, when you were born either a man or a boy or a girl. Okay, these American Medical Association, they don't even know what the definition. They can't define what a woman is. Okay, this is insanity.
And yet you're telling me that the American Pediatricians Association is starting to reverse course and now saying, okay, instead of doing this right away as young kids, let's wait until they're much older and then let them decide. So you're telling me the American Pediatric Association has became under such great pressure that they're backing off now?
They're backing down a little bit, but the war definitely hasn't been won. It's a small battle, but these brave pediatricians are standing up, and there's many across the. They don't believe what the American Academy of Pediatrics is pushing, but listen, they can't stand up because they're board certified through this agency. Okay, they're beholden to them. So they're putting their careers, their positions on the line when they go against the leadership of the American Academy of Pediatrics, okay, which this is a daughter agency of the American Medical Association, okay? It's all one and the same, all right? I can explain that and go through the history, but, just know that they're the same, and, they're leftist lunatics, okay? They've been hijacked. It's a uniparty, just like we don't have Republicans and Democrats anymore. We just have one big unified party, and it's called communism. The same thing is in the medical field, okay? They probably drive it, to be honest with you, because most of them believe in the theory of evolution and Darwin's whole theory of natural selection, and we're evolving at different rates. The the certain races, darker color skin, haven't evolved as far as, say, the white color skin. That's just a fact. I mean, and that's what these people push. So they don't see life as sacred. They don't see that we were created in the image of God, and that's a big problem. I mean, it's a fundamental problem with biology and medicine in general. And so, the medical community is really one of the big pushers of this whole liberal agenda. Whether it's transgenderism and sex change at early, whether it's, they're going to make pedophilia, normal. Just like homosexuality. What's that?
Yes, they are.
Oh, they absolutely are. I mean, it's going to be 20 years from now if the good Lord tarries and doesn't come back, and then we don't fight. Just like now's the time to fight. Okay, I believe the tides are turning a little bit because COVID, it's backfiring on them. Okay, they tried to take us down with COVID, and most of the medical community knew it was a pandemic. Okay, and many people bought into it, and a lot of doctors bought into it, even though they didn't believe it. But they had to protect their positions and their board certifications. But now, as the tide's turning a little bit, these doctors are getting some courage to stand up against these fascists. I mean, they're going to stand up and take it on the chin, and so we got to pray for these people, these brave pediatricians that are taking a stand, these other brave doctors, Dr. Peter McCullough and Robert Malone, and all these guys that are putting their careers on the line to spread the truth.
So let me ask you this, Dr. John. The American Pediatric Association, a lot of these groups have been dominated by what? Big Pharma? And if they're now reversing course, what has brought the pressure? If Big Pharma has been bringing a lot of the pressure, then to reverse course, there had to have been pressure coming from somewhere else. Where was that pressure coming from?
From the people, okay? Like I said, if you look up, you can go to my drjohnmd.org, and then there's a link to my Telegram page. And I post regularly on there things like this. And you can go on. I just posted from Daily Mail. I think I sent you that link. But if you look down there, they took a poll, and it shows that they have Republicans and Democrats on this poll, all right? And the majority of U.S. adults say gender is determined by sex at birth, okay? 60% of American adults say yes, it's determined at birth, your sex, okay? 60%. Now, Republicans, it's 86%. Democrats, it's 38%, okay? So, they break it down, and that's really what's driving this. People, they're telling their pediatricians this is nonsense, and these pediatricians are getting a backbone, and they're going to their leadership and saying, we've got to stop this.
And not only that, I'm also guessing the American Pediatric Association also gets funding and donations, and doctors are stopping funding them, correct?
Yeah. I mean, listen, this is the way it works. Big Pharma is involved, for sure. I mean, they get a lot of money from the pharmaceutical industry.
Okay, hold right there. I'll let you finish that. Let me have you finish that on the other side of the break. 1-800-347-9829. Your questions or comments for Dr. John Witcher. 1-800-347-9829. 1-800-347-9829.
In March of 2022, Biden signed an executive order dealing with cryptocurrencies. The Federal Reserve and the Secretary of the Treasury are all talking about America moving to digital currencies. Many nations are now talking about moving to digital currency. My friends, I've been warning folks for years that when they go to a digital currency, combined with social credit scores, they'll be able to turn off your bank account, just like that. We saw recently in Canada where they implemented emergency powers and began to seize the bank accounts of people that simply were doing peaceful protesting in favor of freedom and liberty. We already know that in America, we who are patriotic conservative Christians have been deemed domestic terrorists for showing up at school board meetings and letting our school boards know we don't want our children taught Marxism under the guise of critical race theory. We don't want the mandated mask onto our children. We don't want mandated vaccines. And yet that has many labeled by the FBI as potential or actually domestic terrorist. We now know that the World Economic Forum openly in their own documents is calling for a digital currency and digital ID for everyone in the world. And we know the Biden regime is fully on board. They openly state that your digital identity will be tied to social credit scores and your ability to get a loan will be tied to that information. Why would you be under the thumb of the globalists and the elite when you already know what it is they're saying about you and what they're doing in America and around the world? Why would you leave yourself vulnerable to them turning off your account, leaving you helpless? My friends, I believe this is where precious metals come in. I don't give financial advice, but I do give financial opinion. And for years, I've been advising my audience to take seriously becoming educated on the issue of precious metals, and particularly numismatic. Many people don't even know what numismatic coins are. They're coins that are 1933 and older, and by law, they're private. It's a great way, I believe, for people to store their wealth, not to make money, but to protect your money as a hedge against inflation. If you want to get a free report with no obligation, I urge you to call my friend Wes Peters. I've been working with Swiss America as a sponsor of our organization and conferences for over 15 years. Wes is a retired Marine. You can text him your name and number, and he'll send you the packet of information, no obligation. You don't even have to call him. You can simply text his cell phone at 602-558-8585. Give him your mailing address. Say, I want the free packet of information Brannon talked about, and it'll be on its way. Just text him your name and address to 602-558-8585. Then after you get the packet of information, go through it, and when you're ready to have your questions answered, you can call Wes back. That number again to text your name and address to get the free packet of information that's no obligation is 602-558-8585. Again, 602-558-8585. Don't you think you've been given plenty of warning for what's coming? Isn't it time for a prudent man, a wise man, to take refuge?
All right, welcome back. Glad you're with us. 1-800-347-9829. Dr. John, finish that before we go to the phone lines. You were saying that
it's time to cut the legs out from under the AMA. Okay, the American Medical Association needs to go. They're a monopoly. They were formed in the mid 1800s, but in the early 1930s they started making up all these specialty boards: the American Academy of Pediatrics, the American Board of Internal Medicine, the American Board of Family Practice. There's probably, I don't know how many exact, but there's a lot. You name a doctor specialty, and they are the ones that board certify the doctors. They're a monopoly, okay? They certify over 80% of all the doctors in America. So we're all beholden to the AMA.
So without them,
like me. I'm not board certified through any of those agencies, so I'm not beholden to them, okay? And it's big pharma. Look, we're the allopathic doctors. That means MDs, medical doctors, that train in that setting. It's all about pharmaceuticals. That's all we learn. We don't learn about natural methods of healing. We don't learn about vitamins and supplements. We don't learn about any of these alternative therapies except for big pharma medications, okay? That's all we know. That's all they train us. So that was all a plan starting in the 1930s, and they've taken over, just like they took over COVID, and it was all about vaccines. They wouldn't let doctors prescribe any off-label medications like hydroxychloroquine or ivermectin or even prednisone or blood thinners for that matter. It was all about, oh, no. The solution is we have to get everybody vaccinated, and then that'll cure this pandemic. But it didn't work, okay? Wow. So now is the time to turn tables, and they're backing down, and we've got to just fight hard. And it starts with the individuals, okay? You can go on to the AMA website, the American Academy of Pediatrics website, and just start posting comments that you're a bunch of nut jobs. I mean, you don't even know what a difference between a man and a woman. You're pushing all this fake agenda. I mean, pedophilia is wrong. Okay, you can't. I mean, how does anybody line up and say that an adult having sex with a child is right?
Exactly.
That's wrong in everybody's eyes. I mean, you could be a atheist and know that's wrong.
Exactly right. Let's go to the phone lines. The phone lines, as you can imagine, Dr. John, are lit up. Shirley from Elkhorn. Go ahead, Shirley, line one. Shirley?
Yes, I'm 91 years old, and I didn't take any of the virus shots, but I took a flu shot in 2020. Am I in danger?
Well, let me ask you first, is that the first flu shot you ever took, Shirley?
No. I've took them all along.
Okay.
For years.
Well, Dr. John, what are your thoughts on the flu shot?
I mean, I'm not here to give out medical advice, okay? I mean, I would say go to your doctor, but I'm going to give you my opinion, okay? But my opinion at this point is, I'm personally not taking any shots the government's promoting.
Thank you.
Okay? I mean, there's a word on the street right now amongst the doctor groups and whatnot that, they're using a whole different method of the flu vaccines. This mRNA technology that Dr. Robert Malone invented the basis of when he was in his 20s as a very young man, okay? And he got multiple patents on it. They've taken this technology that he invented in the early 80s, and they want to use this technology for all sorts of things, okay? It's not a proven technology. We believe that, they claim, there's no way that this can affect your DNA. But there's studies that have been done not inside the human body but with like liver tissue that shows that if you inject this mRNA type technology, that it does affect the DNA in the cells. Okay, so
wow.
we don't know, but the bottom line is until these things are proven to be safe, then I wouldn't recommend anybody take any sort of mRNA technology shots.
All right, let's go to line 3. Bill from Nebraska. Go ahead, Bill.
Hey, Brannon, good to hear from you. I like this guy, this John. He's doing an excellent job bringing up all these excellent points. There's one more 3-letter group we got to bring in here, and that's the FDA. I got a bottle of vitamin C right here in my hand. It says on there, these statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. I live right here in Nebraska, and right down the hill from me, there's a big fort that was down there, and there's a big fort down there. There's 600 dead people down there that are buried down there at the Fort Atkinson in Nebraska. And they're dead because they didn't take vitamin C. They died of scurvy. Now, let me tell you, as soon as they put this sign on this bottle, they should have took down the FDA because those people don't have brains.
Well, I agree. What are your thoughts, Dr. John?
Oh, yeah, the FDA has shown their true colors through COVID, just like the CDC. These organizations, they're totally bought off by Big Pharma. And, they're just like this gentleman said, they're vilifying vitamins and supplements, vitamin C, NAD, which is a supplement that many people have been taking for COVID and for long haul COVID and the vaccine injured. This medication, a lot of people are getting it through the IV, and it's showing great results, and it's certainly safe. But the FDA is trying to take that off the market, 100%. So, yeah, I mean, the FDA, the CDC, they're promoting what they are selling, and they're vilifying everything else.
And it's a revolving door between the big pharma and those industries. Let's go to Linda in Lake Geneva, line 2. Linda, thanks for calling in. You're on with Dr. John Witcher.
Hi. I did have a question about the ivermectin.
Yes.
First of all, Brandon, I love your show. You're awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. John. You are great. The ivermectin, Dr. John, I had a conversation with my brother about this last night, and he says, because my neighbor got COVID and she went to the hospital, they gave it to her. She was home in an hour and a half and felt wonderful. And he says, she better be careful because it's going to be really worse down the line. That is my thing I would like you to address. And to Shirley, I had COVID in 2019. In 2021, they gave me a flu shot, which I wasn't thinking to get or not get. I've been getting my flu shots. And after that flu shot in 2021, I felt like I would die how I felt when I had COVID.
Wow. Dr. John, we've got about 15 seconds. Comment on ivermectin.
Well, ivermectin is a great drug, okay? I've treated hundreds and hundreds of COVID patients. I've treated hundreds in the hospital. I worked in the hospital when COVID broke out as a medical director of the ER and hospitals program in a small hospital in Yazoo City, Mississippi. And we started patients on hydroxychloroquine.
Okay, that's it. We're going to get Dr. John back. We'll get him back. Take care.
Worldview Weekend Radio with Brannon Howse. CDs are available by calling 1-800-729-9829. Or to hear an MP3 file of this or earlier programs, go to worldviewweekend.com. Views expressed may or may not be those of Worldview Weekend, VCY America, or this station. This program is a public affairs presentation of worldviewweekend.com and is heard weekdays on VCY America.
Hello, I'm Brannon Howse, and I cannot stress enough how important it is that you go to mypillow.com and use the promo code WVW as in Worldview Weekend. Not only will you save up to 66% on sheets, towels, blankets, dog beds, pet beds, bathrobes, slippers, moccasins, and any of the 110 plus products. Not only will you save up to 66% on your purchase by using the very powerful promo code WVW, but did you know that with each purchase, a generous portion comes back to WVW Broadcast Network? Last year in 2021, we were able to replace all of our 12-year-old plus cameras. They were at least 12 years old. They were old HD cameras. We were able to get brand new 4K cameras because you used the promo code WVW. That's how important it is. You may think, well, is it really that important? Yeah, it is. We wouldn't have, I don't think, the brand new cameras we have today if we had not had your support by going to mypillow.com and using the promo code WVW. Now, not only do we have to buy new equipment, maintain the equipment, but we have bandwidth bill. Every month we pay thousands of dollars in storage and bandwidth so that you can watch the free TV shows at WVW. If you listen to the radio show for free, I have to pay for the bandwidth. The radio shows and TV shows are free for you to watch, but I have to pay for the bandwidth. How do we cover that bill? One way is by those of you that go to mypillow.com and you use the promo code WVW as in Worldview Weekend, WVW. Will you do that right now? Will you do me another favor? Will you ask your family and friends to go to mypillow.com? Look, we all need sheets, towels, blankets, comforters, dog beds, bathrobes, slippers, moccasins. You're not only supporting a great company and the work of Mike Lindell, you're also supporting the free radio and TV shows at WVW Broadcast Network. I really need you to go there right now. Please.